Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Back in July of 1996, tonight's guest registered as a lobbyist with the House and Senate in order to engage their members regarding the extraterrestrial issue and the truth embargo. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Stephen Bassett, and he's here tonight to talk with us. Mr. Bassett, are you out there, sir?
I sure am, Rick.
Hey, Stephen. Nice to talk to you again. It's been got almost 2 years, I think, since the last time we talked. But what's new in your life? You seem to be going a million miles an hour anytime I see you on TV or talking on the radio. Give us the update.
Well, Paradigm Research Group, my organization, is advocating to get the government to finally acknowledge this extraterrestrial presence we've been paying close attention to now for nearly 65 years. And it's a government policy that has to be changed. The policy of truth embargo used to be called UFO cover-up. But it was a policy for national security reasons instituted back in the late 40s, early 1950s. Which was pretty much locked in by the Cold War, since government did not want to be dealing with that issue in the public domain while they were pointing thousands of nuclear weapons across the poles at the Soviets and vice versa. So 20 years after the Cold War is over, we still have not gotten that information out. The government has not acknowledged it, and the amount of evidence is just mounted, number of sightings in the millions. Yeah. So it's all gotten a little bit strange, a little bit grotesque. And it's not helping, I think, people trust their government. It's certainly holding us back. And so disclosure, which is the goal of this movement, this truth movement, which is formal acknowledgement of the ET presence. It's a capital D. It's an event. It's a day in time. Could be happening very soon. We are really closing in on it. The truth embargo that the governments have been maintaining is really kind of falling apart. And there's a great deal going on.
What
around the yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you say that we're getting there, we're close. What do you feel it's going to take to that last push to make it happen? Are there a few things or a couple of things that really need to be done?
Well, the more weight you put on the scale, the thinner it drops. And exactly what exactly which event or which project or initiative actually trips the decision inside government, we may never know. But we just keep piling weight on the scale. Around the world right now, you've got many countries that are loosening up on this issue. Peru and Brazil have set up actual commissions within their air forces to address the issue in concert with UFO researchers, like that's what they're called down there. I would call it extraterrestrial phenomena researchers. 12, 15 countries have released very substantial numbers of their files, kind of emptying out their files, at least the ones that can be emptied out without triggering a disclosure event. This is putting a lot of pressure on the United States and indicates that it's increasingly likely another nation's head of state will move first and go in front of their people with some evidence and say, look, there's ETs here. Sorry, we couldn't tell you sooner. So that's happening around the world. In the U.S., documentaries are coming out one after another. I know 4 in the works, as well as a docudrama film, multi-million-dollar production in the works. Several television series. There's a series going to be coming out on National Geographic. Another one on History Channel, and on and on and on. So that is continuing to happen. But Paradigm Research Group is in the direct advocacy business. And we have a lot about to happen all at once. Friday the Friday coming from, since we were interviewing here, on Friday the 18th
of October,
is going to launch a number of websites. First of all, a website for the Truth Embargo documentary, which is being produced in partnership with Just Cause Entertainment, which is about the citizen hearing, and it's about the Truth Embargo and about the sort of the history of these things. It's an attempt to sort of really bring this issue to the public in a more narrative and personal way. Truth Embargo movie site is going to go up. It's a very substantial site, and it's going to be accompanied by a fundraising campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, where people can help make this movie happen. We've already filmed about half of the footage, but we need more funds to complete this movie. Sirius, for instance, the Sirius documentary, which is done pretty well, and it's out there right now, raised $440,000 on its fundraising for that film, and we're going to see if we can't maybe match that. So that goes up Friday the 18th at truthendembargomovie.com. Also going up that day is the reworked Citizen Hearing on Disclosure website, citizenhearing.org, which is going to expand the how would you say, message, provide more information for people, how they can get involved. It's also going to be it's going to continue a fundraising campaign for the Citizen Hearing DVD sets, which we are going to be producing, both DVD and Blu-ray sets, and then selling to the public around the world. We've got about half the funding in on that. And then there's also going to be a new funding effort for a brand new campaign called the PRG Congressional Hearing Initiative.
This is the one with the UN, or?
That's another one.
That's another one. Oh,
another one. So the Congressional Hearing Initiative, which now is slated to start on January the 2nd, that will be part of that site. And then we're going to launch the foundation site, the Citizen Hearing Foundation, which is a fully functional, soon. Maybe not Friday. That might come maybe the week after. But the Citizen Hearing Foundation is a full 501(c) authorized, ready to take funds, tax-deductible monies from any person or organization. And that is the first task of the Citizen Hearing Foundation will be at citizenhearingfoundation.org, which the site is not up yet, would be to pursue a multi-nation joint resolution to the United Nations for a UN resolution to hold a world conference, UN-backed world conference. All of that is going to unfold at virtually all at once. And there's going to be international press releases going out. The congressional initiative is going to be getting a lot of attention from me. The congressional initiative is a very orchestrated process. I'm going to go back to Washington to lobby directly, or into Washington to lobby directly the Congress for the first time in 13 years. I'm a registered lobbyist on this issue, still the only one in the country. And we think the timing is right. We're going to launch this campaign on January the 2nd by sending a full DVD set of the Citizen Hearing, about 10 DVD set of the Citizen Hearing. We're talking about professionally edited, produced, covering the whole 30 hours of testimony of 40 witnesses to former members of Congress that was held at the National Press Club April 29 and May 3. Wow. We're sending a copy of that to every member of Congress. That's 5,350 DVDs that are going to go up on the Capitol Hill all at once. Unprecedented material. It's never been done before. And there's over 1,000 staffers working those 535 offices. And every one of them has a laptop, and every one of those laptops has a DVD player. Yep. And so any one of these staffers could put some of these DVDs in and see these witnesses testifying to former colleagues of their bosses. 6 members of Congress with 80 years of tenure. I mean, these were not just passing through people. These were people with 80 years of tenure. And it's going to blow their mind. And so they're going to get that. And then those DVD sets are going to be accompanied by a letter signed by many witnesses that are ready to testify before Congress right away on their oath. And this letter will be calling for these members' offices to meet with me to discuss that CHD content, as well as calling for immediate congressional hearings for the scores and scores of witnesses ready to testify on this issue.
So when it comes to the politicians, Stephen, is it that they're looking at political suicide? Is that their fear by jumping into this and working with people like you? Do they just fear political suicide, or what is it?
No, it's not that simple. The truth embargo has been in place for 67 years. It was completely institutionalized by 1992, and everyone in Congress knew that you just don't go there. They didn't need to be told they didn't have to go there. They just knew you don't go there.
No.
And because the government has gone to enormous lengths to ghettoize the issue, to isolate it, to marginalize it, and the people in it. So they have this barrier was built up. And so it's very difficult for them to overcome that barrier. Now, maybe they would view it as political suicide. Maybe they would just view it as risky. But they have not engaged the issue since 1968, which is the last time they held a hearing on this, 1968. And the fact is that the citizen hearing on disclosure showed that when members of Congress, in this case former members of Congress, experienced members of Congress, who'd served on committees like the Intelligence Committee, like the Tech and Science and Technology Committee, when they hear the kind of testimony that's out there now, it blows their mind. I mean, these people were literally transformed in 5 days. And so I think plenty of people inside the military intelligence community know that if that kind of hearing was held, that would be the end of the truth embargo. And that's why many efforts to get hearings, both public efforts as well as internal efforts, since just 91, have all been blocked.
Yeah.
So because it's one thing for a single member of Congress to step out and say, I think there's some realness here, we want to look into it. That is brutally difficult. And Stephen Schiff of New Mexico found that out.
Yeah. Now, can you tell the audience about that? Stephen Schiff, congressman from New Mexico, what did he actually do? How did he step out on that?
Well, let me get back to that.
Okay.
Let me first cover this hearing process. The hearing process is totally different. In other words, all the committee is agreeing to do is to allow high-powered former military agency political witnesses to come in and testify to them, not to one, but to a whole committee. And they don't have to admit anything. The committee doesn't have to admit what their views are about this at all. They're basically trying to gather facts to find out what's going on. And they're not alone. They're in committee. And so it's far easier for a committee of members of Congress to hear testimony from these witnesses than it is for individual members to step forward and try to push the issue.
Right.
And that's been very difficult. And so the hearing process is the way to go. And we need to break through. And the citizen hearing on disclosure, 30 hours of testimony on tape, edited, is probably the key to the door. And it's never been available before. And so that's why I'm going back to push really hard. I'm going to go balls out until, hopefully, we get the hearings early next year. The story of Stephen Schiff is a powerful example of the difficulty here. In the early 1990s, he came forward under request from, his constituents in New Mexico to look into the Roswell issue, because most people don't believe the Air Force's story. The Roswell anniversary was coming up, 1997, and so he looked into it, and he started making inquiries of the Air Force and the GAO and the Army and so forth. And he was given a substantial runaround. They wouldn't cooperate with him, really. They just sort of passed him around. He got pretty angry about it. And he went public, and he complained on television. Some showed. Not too long after that, the GAO, or rather the Air Force, came back and said, well, we looked for the Roswell phone records, which is one of the things he wanted, and they were all destroyed. We don't know how, but they're gone. And these are the phone records for the year 1947-48.
What a coincidence.
Which is the key time. And so he didn't get any support from his colleagues in Congress. There wasn't enough of a movement then to really get out there and publicly back him up. And so he took a lot of grief about it, but he was a very respected Republican congressman who was a retired Army officer. So I think he could have won his seat again, but unfortunately, not long after he came public with his complaints about what he was getting from the government on the Roswell records, he developed a rather unusual squamous cancer behind his ear that the medicine doctors could not stop, and it just went right into his brain, and he died in office. So that's the story of Stephen Greer. But that was back...
Stephen Schiff.
Stephen Schiff, sorry. Very sorry. Stephen Schiff. And that was back around 1996, I think. So it's been about 17 years since that. Things have changed. And so we're going into the Congress heavy here, and 14 days after those DVD sets are delivered to the entire House and Senate is I will then start making formal approaches to the offices to get meetings with staffers. But in between, while those are being, it takes about 14 days for packages to be delivered and go through the security system that they have for mail and packages going in. We're going to launch a public campaign to get as many people as possible to contact their representatives, not anybody else's, just theirs, because constituents are listened to. To contact their two senators and representative by email, by fax, by letters, asking them, insisting that they meet with me, the lobbyist, take a meeting with me to discuss the CHD content, and also to discuss having immediate hearings. So they're going to get some input coming in from their constituents. They're going to have these DVDs. There's going to be press releases put out. And then not too long after I start making my approaches, probably around day 25, a letter is going to be sent out to the key committee chairpersons. This is a separate letter, and this one will be signed by former members of Congress and other notable individuals. And that letter will be calling on them to both meet with me and again to hold hearings. So I'll get that. So I think you can see that this is going to be a highly orchestrated public campaign backed up by the 30 hours of testimony. And then, of course, the DVD sets are going to be sold all around the world. And they'll be accessible to the media and so forth. So we've got a congressional initiative. We're going to have a UN initiative to get a joint resolution into the General Assembly. We've got a documentary, and all of this is going to be up on, most of this is going to be up on the web on Friday the 18th, and then later the week, probably sometime around the 23rd, 24th, the foundation site will be launched, and we will be sending out press releases about the UN resolution.
Wow.
And this is all basic follow-up to the citizen hearing on disclosure of April 29, May 3, which is a breakthrough and unprecedented event that really is a game changer. It was covered by the media. We got some coverages, scores of articles that you can go find at citizenhearing.org on the media coverage. But we didn't get the degree of coverage or interviews that we had hoped. And one of the reasons is that the Boston bombing occurred about 9 days before the event. About 8 days, actually, before we started. And all the media disappeared. I mean, all the media that was lined up that hadn't been committed by then was gone.
Right.
And that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's just unfortunate for us and tragic for Boston. But that's fine, because, again, we webcast it around the world. We webcast it so members of the Hill, on the Hill, Capitol Hill, staffers could watch it without having to risk being there. And media, reporters who were not assigned to cover it or wouldn't have gotten assigned to cover it could watch it again in the comfort of their office or home. We don't know how many media did or how many staffers did, but probably some. So the citizen hearing on disclosure is only beginning to have the kind of impact that it was intended to have.
Right.
And the goal is nothing less than disclosure next year, early next year.
That's your target.
It may be that hearings will trip it, or it may be that another nation responding to all this activity as well and seeing all this happening may decide, okay, we're going to act.
Yeah,
It could be Putin, it could be China, it could be Brazil, who knows. But somebody's going to act first.
Let me ask you about that. What would be the advantage or disadvantage for someone besides the United States coming out first? Do you think the United States would rather another country release it first, or do you think the United States would like to be first?
I can't imagine that anyone in government would want another nation to go first. I mean, I just can't imagine that. The advantage is simple. The first nation to acknowledge the extraterrestrial presence will immediately obtain one of the greatest political legacies in history.
I would think.
That country, that leader, and the party of that leader will always be associated with this, profound event. I think it's be the most profound event in human history forever.
Yep. Yeah.
It's going to elevate them in world prestige and put them at the center of the story. So there is a huge amount to be gained. And then the other nations that have to follow will gain none of that prestige, but they will receive the brunt of the criticism about misrepresenting and lying about this for all these years.
Exactly, because
Particularly the United States. The United States has the most gain to lose there because it's been the principal progenitor of the truth embargo, and therefore, if doesn't go first, it's going to get all the downside of the post-disclosure public relations issues and none of the upside. So there's a lot at stake.
So the people or the organization that has headed up the squashing of this topic within the United States, are there like groups in other countries? Do you think there's some group overseeing this secret for the whole planet?
No. Each country has
on their
the
own
issue. Yeah, each country has the issue managed within their military intelligence community, and it's very possible that there is communication between, obviously, completely classified communication going on between some of these nations' intelligence complexes regarding the ET issue. There might be some international cooperation within the intelligence communities, but not at the level of the heads of state. Or they might just be sitting tight. Don't know. I just don't know. But there is no overarching group. It's managed as a national security matter by the appropriate entities, deep classified within the nations that are addressing it. Some may completely not be addressing. In other words, there may be people in some nations, the government of some nations, there may be people in those governments that know it's true, but they don't want anything to do with it, and so they don't deal with it at all.
Right.
Because they know other nations are dealing with it, and they don't need to.
Right. Let them take care of it.
Yeah.
Hey, question. For the people that were on the committee for the public hearings, I take it you had a chance to speak with them after everything was said and done, doors shut. What kind of responses did you get from those folks?
From the committee was profoundly affected by this testimony. They could not believe how serious it was, how substantive it was, the people, the quality of the witnesses. They've never had the chance to hear that kind of information in that way, never. Because they were working in Congress, and it's not allowed. And they had, they're busy people. Being a member of Congress is a busy job. And so once given the opportunity to hear it, which they could do now that they were retired, now that they were out of Congress, astounded them. And there's no question that if the hearings were held tomorrow, and we brought the same witnesses, though believe me, there are many other witnesses that could very well and could testify. Some of them are even stronger than the ones we had there. But just the witnesses we had were to go to the Hill tomorrow and testify in front of several committees. Those dozens of committee members would go through the same transformation, and of course the press would be all over it. It would be probably the most covered hearings in history,
right?
Surpassing anything, including Iran-Contra, Watergate, and that would be it. So yeah, they were profoundly affected, and I know that because they told me personally.
Yeah. Now, when these DVD sets get sent out to, I think you said 535 different offices.
Of the House and Senate, yeah. 535 members of the House and Senate. Yeah.
Okay. When these get sent out, are you looking at almost having to, or it's going to push a response from these folks? I mean, especially if the media gets involved, right? The media is going to go to them and say, we understand you got this thing. Did you watch it? And what are your feelings? I mean, is it going to push some type of communication at that level, right?
When it comes to the media, you just never know what they're going to do. We're going to push the media. We're going to be working both sides. But exactly what will take place, I don't know. Yeah. The media is still extremely conflicted about this issue. There's been tons of articles written, and a lot of articles, but they just what I call they act as scribes. They just write up, well, this happened and that happened. There's no investigation going on. Mm-hmm. They're not following up. They're not asking the obvious questions of the right people. I'm most intrigued. I'm more focused on what the staffers will do. The Hill is the Capitol Hill is a pretty tight community.
Mm-hmm.
There are all of these. There's 535 members up there. They've all got 20-some staffers in each office, and they're all having to work together. I mean, there's certainly within the parties. I mean, the Democratic members of the House have got to work with the other Democrats. So there's a tremendous amount of interaction that goes on between certainly the Democratic staffers of the members in the House and Senate, and then vice versa on the Republican side. And there's a certain amount of interaction certainly between the parties. So these staffers know each other, and they all work in the in a few of these. There's a few buildings up there, not a lot. The Hart Senate building, the Rayburn office building, and so forth. And so suddenly, 5,300 DVDs are going to turn up. And we've put stuff in there before. We've distributed 535 documentaries, UFO documentary, but it's a documentary. It's just information. Maybe someone looks at it, doesn't. What they're going to get is 5,300 DVDs of former members of Congress hearing testimony from very powerful witnesses on the ET issue. And I think that is going to be compelling. I think it's going to be irresistible. Yep. And they're going to start popping those in the computer. And when they do, they're going to start talking amongst each other. And my interest is will it generate a kind of viral process up there that breaks out? Because this is the most important issue in the world today. And, of course, one of the messages I'm going to be saying is that the Congress is bottomed out. It just can't go any lower now. It's bad as it could possibly be. Its reputation, its approval rating are virtually at the absolute bottom. Mm-hmm. So this very dysfunctional institution desperately needs a major issue, particularly a major nonpartisan issue, that it can get involved in and bring to the public and achieve the accolades and the public's praise for being a truth finding organization again. And so they need us badly right now. There is no other issue out there that could turn them around as quickly as this. And so that's a message I'm going to be pushing pretty hard.
Wow. Amazing stuff. I just hope it does what you say, go viral and one talks to another and exponentially just grows and grows, because that's what's needed.
That's the idea.
Yep. Well, listen, Stephen, we're getting a little low on time, and I wanted to ask you or have you mention a couple of things that I saw out on the PRG update page. Mm-hmm. I see you're going to be going to Brazil here in just a little bit, huh?
Yeah. If you go to ParadigmResearchGroup.org and you go into the main portal, you could see a quick link to the conferences, and you could see upcoming events. I'll be speaking in Brazil. That will be the launch pretty much of the UN initiative, because I'm going to be going down there calling on Brazil to lead the UN resolution process. Hope to meet with some officials down there, and that's going to be November 21, 24. I'm also speaking in San Jose November 9, 10 at the conference there. It's going to be a conference in San Jose, and I recommend people look that up. Again, go to ParadigmResearchGroup.org and find the conference section. You can see the listings. That's the San Jose conference, 9-10. And that's pretty much the two events that are. I think there's some more, actually. I'm pretty sure there's some more. Hang on just a second. I'm going to go to Paradigm Research. But in the meantime, I invite people to check out the websites. ParadigmResearchGroup.org, of course. Mm-hmm. CitizenHearing.org. And when it'll soon be up, TruthEmbargoMovie.com. Soon be up, CitizenHearingFoundation.org. All right. And you can really get a sense of all that's going on in PRG's advocacy processes here. If we can get the funding, and that's critical, we've got to get the funding. But if we can get the funding, we have the potential to end this truth embargo next year. By the way, I'm also speaking on a cruise. First time I've done this. I'm going to be speaking on a seminar at Sea Cruise, Royal Caribbean, April 7 to 12. That's out of Fort Lauderdale. So once again, if you go to paradigmresearchgroup.org and go into the main portal and look for the conference link, conferences quick link, you can find the hook to the seminar at sea in April of next year. We'll be doing that. I'm also speaking at the Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton. That's February 7 to 9. Right? I know a lot of people know about that. I'm looking forward to that again, of course.
How many days a year do you travel, Stephen? Lately.
Some years it's been a lot. I know in 2010 I traveled about 50 days.
Wow.
60 days I was out of the country, maybe. Not so much right now, but I'll be doing some traveling here next year. I'll be doing a lot of traveling in 2014. I think this is the big year. I mean, this is coming together on so many levels. I just feel we can get this done. With or without Congress's involvement. But Congress may be key here. But then we have the UN. We're going to try to get them involved. Other nations are moving forward. The truth embargo is just being shredded. Pretty soon there won't be anybody in the country that doesn't realize that the ET presence is real. Right now it's about 50%. But that
I was gonna say you have a little post there on the website, and a new poll reconfirmed that 50% of American adults are convinced that the UFOs are linked with some type of extraterrestrial origin, and that's
right.
And what's even more astounding is it says that that percentage has been true for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, that recent poll pretty much, it's been studied at 50%. It's been holding pretty fast. This just reconfirms it again. 35% are convinced otherwise. I mean, there's about another 15% that are probably leaning that way. This is 50% of the American adults. This is about 120 million people.
Yeah.
That's just in the United States, and these numbers hold up for most of the developed world. And so, and by the way, for those that wonder, the actual percentage is higher amongst educated people and higher incomes, not the other way around. And so if you were to just poll people with college educations with incomes above 50,000, the percentage is above 50%.
Wow.
So again, this truth embargo makes no more sense anymore, and we need to end it. And then we'll be in the post-disclosure world, and a lot of very interesting and I think very substantial things are going to happen very fast, not the least of which is the technology issue. We're going to press the government very hard post-disclosure. We want to know what they've learned from those craft. We want to know what they've learned about energy and what they've learned about antigravitic propulsion. We know it's quite a bit. And we want that out of the secret laboratories and into the public domain so that we can have those tech breakthroughs to address the enormous problems we're facing as an overcrowded planet in the 21st millennium.
Yeah.
Or the 21st century, rather.
I mean, we are at a spot right now where we need something major to turn this, not just this country, but this entire planet around. And this could do it. This could do it. All right. Well, Stephen, we have hit the end of the show. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of what is a truly busy schedule. Mm-hmm. I'll put up the links to your websites, and we'll keep watching and supporting, and we're behind you. We're with you.
Absolutely. And one thing we're really looking for right now, if you go to citizenhearing.org, you can find this. We're looking for an executive producer donor. In other words, we have a level called the executive producer level, and it's a $25,000 level. If someone donates $25,000 to the Citizen Hearing Disclosure DVD project to get these things edited, and also to the Congress, they will get the executive producer credit on the DVDs, all the ones that are sent around the world into Congress and so forth. So I want to put that out there if someone would like to be part of history.
Very good. Very good. I'm sure there's many of them just in Hollywood that 25,000 would be nothing. So
I'd like to think so, but we shall see.
All right. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed there. Again, Stephen, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.